Blue Dog Films presents Paid to Dream with Charles Dennis.
Hello, this is Charles Dennis with Vintage Paid to Dream audio recordings. Mark Rydell is a teacher, musician, actor, and most importantly, a director. Some of his classic movies are Cinderella Liberty and On Golden Pond. Here he is, sharing his remarkable stories with me.
Mr. Rydell, are you there?
I am indeed.
Oh.
Anxious to talk to you.
Anxious to talk to you, too. This is something I've waited a long time to do, and we had a false start the other week, but here we are.
I hope I don't disappoint you.
No, I don't think you will. The fascinating thing about this show of mine is that everyone I talk to has a place in my life. And there are people, and you have probably one of the most unusual and poignant places in my life.
Good grief. Describe it.
I will. I was a young man living in London, England in 1970, and I was walking along the street one day, and this gorgeous woman was there, willowy, brunette, walking a Dalmatian, and my brother had a Dalmatian, and it seemed like a good opening, so I started.
I had a Dalmatian as a child.
Oh, really?
Very,
and
very
I said,
important. I'll tell you about it in a minute, but go ahead with your
I
story.
said, Floyd, is that you? And this woman, she had sunglasses on, and she was just, what are you doing? This is outrageous. Whatever, boom, boom, boom. And next thing I knew, she was giving me her phone number, and she was older than me, and it turned out that the whole thing was because I reminded her of you, and this was Ron Harding.
Oh my God, Ron.
Yes.
She died.
I know, it's so sad.
A year ago or something like that, yeah.
But there was always that ghost, behind me whenever we were together. It was always, you're just like Mark, And so I went, Jesus Christ, who is this guy? I mean, I knew who you were, of course, because I was working for the newspaper in Toronto when you were directing The Fox.
Oh, my God.
But
This is an amazing story.
I know.
Oh, my God. She was so important in my life.
But this is why I always felt, my God, I know so much about this man, and I don't know him.
Oh, my God.
And then, of course, when I was invited to join the studio 3 years ago, you were the person who brought me in, and you were the person who told me then that Ron had passed.
Yeah, my God, yes. Oh, my God. How long ago was that?
Well, I joined the studio, this is 2011, I guess it was 2009.
Yeah, 2 years ago, yeah.
And
she had just died.
I know, and what broke my heart was the fact that I had been in New York, I guess, around the time that she died.
Oh, yeah.
But she was, can you tell us something about Ron? I mean, she was a young actress when you knew her, right?
When I was in the second year of the Neighborhood Playhouse, she was in the first year of the Neighborhood Playhouse. And we connected rather quickly and rather intimately, and had a relationship that lasted for 7 years.
Wow.
Yeah, I would say to you that she was the first woman who occupied a genuine position in a relationship with me. I mean, prior to that time, it was all, a date, and maybe you went to bed, maybe you didn't, but, there were no relationships. She was my first real girlfriend.
Well, for me, she was my Mrs. Robinson, because she was, at least 10 years older than I was. But she would, talk to me about you all the time, and so I've always felt this kinship with you, a sort of strange kinship in a way, because...
Yes, my God, we shared the same woman.
We did indeed.
Yeah, she was a lovely person. She was so sensitive, and so, I hope you share my opinion, she was so fragile. And
yes, well, she told me, actually, that she had been in an institution at one point, and that you and Norman Fell used to come and visit her.
That's correct.
Try and break her out.
I remember we broke up, and about a year later, by the way, is this is being recorded, what we're saying? Maybe we
yeah.
Oh, so I shouldn't maybe reveal too much.
No.
But the truth of the matter is, somebody called me, and after we had been apart for about a year, and said that you have to help Ron. And I said, what do you mean? And I went over to see her, and she was in the middle of a breakdown, talking kind of word salad and free associative at a mile a minute, and I took her with her father to be institutionalized.
Wow.
Out in Long Island, and then I visited her. In fact, quite recently, I came across the visiting card, somehow in my files. She was there for like a year and a half. She was in the institution. I went every weekend and saw her, and spent time with her. After the first 3 months, you weren't allowed to see her, but then after that, I was her connection to something that she aspired to, getting out of the hospital. And she finally did, and of course was relatively healthy after that.
But she obviously had this, drifting around, because when I met her, she was working basically as a housekeeper for this wealthy guy. It was all very peculiar, very, very strange.
So she was a tragic figure, and so sensitive.
Oh, I know.
So lovely, so beautiful, so remarkable.
She was amazing, truly, truly amazing. And I'm just sorry that I didn't, get a chance to speak to her in the last, whatever it was. The last time I spoke with her, she was working for ICM in New York.
Yes, exactly.
I got a phone call out of nowhere. I hadn't spoken to her in years, and suddenly I get this phone call from New York, because I had joined ICM at the time, and she saw my name in the client list, and she phoned me. This was back in the early 80s, I guess.
Yes, I saw her at that time. In fact, as a matter of fact, I went into New York, and it was her birthday or something, so I called her, and she was, of course, shocked to hear from me, and I took her to the theater, and we had dinner and reminisced, and it felt quite sad, actually, because we'd had a really healthy and productive relationship for some years.
She was like Franny and Zooey, she was something out of the salad.
Interesting association, that's exactly right.
Yeah, it was that kind of... Anyhow, I just, that's when I finally met you, it was like, okay, here we are, years later. It was wild.
It is wild, and I hope I didn't disappoint you.
No, you're a constant joy, and our Monday night sessions at the studio, I so enjoy you, and it's
well,
just great.
Thank you. I really look forward to them.
Yeah,
and I know that all the writers do look forward to the session, and it's why it's packed all the time.
Yeah, it's great. It's great. I've got a piece going on in 2 weeks. So.
Oh, great! How wonderful.
Yeah. And I'm looking forward. It's huge. It's got 13 actors, so I'm really.
Get out of there.
That's good. I hope we have as many people out there. We got to have a good crowd that night.
13 people in something you're doing at the studio.
Yeah.
How are you getting? Are you rehearsing at all?
Yeah, we're rehearsing this Sunday, and it's a very funny but very, very topical piece, and I don't want to tell you much about it because you'll be reading it soon anyhow.
Right, I will. Indeed.
Yeah. Now listen.
Yes, my friend.
Growing up in the Bronx, I think of two names that loom large, and I wonder how they figured in your life as well: John Garfield and Tony Curtis.
Well, they figured in a sense they preceded me. Both of them were much older than I. But I admired them both, and they were, in a sense, models for my ambition and my aspirations as an actor. Both of them. John Garfield, of course, had this remarkable. I remember him playing. What the hell was it? The Odets thing in New York.
Did you see him in Golden Boy?
I did.
Oh boy, do I!
Oh, I did indeed, and I knew him. I knew a girl with whom he was intimate, and I was working with her. She was.
Wait a minute.
Oh,
this is going to be another one of our links. Are you talking about Dran Zeitz?
No, but I knew her.
Yeah, because you were in Moon. We'll get to that in a minute. She's wow. This is so weird.
My God, isn't this amazing that we have so many similar experiences and
I know.
to talk about?
But I just wonder what it was like as a kid to be sitting in a movie house, and it's not, MGM was the Midwest studio. Gable and Tracy all, were guys from the Midwest, but there you were as a kid, and here's a guy, a movie star from the Bronx, and he sounds like he's from the Bronx, except he had good diction. Much better diction.
You're talking about Garfield?
Yeah.
Yes. And listen, he was the enfant terrible of the group theater.
Yeah.
And then when he played Golden Boy in New York, a part that he wanted desperately, didn't get in the group theater, Luther Adler played it, and he was devastated by that.
And worse, he had to play in it as Ziggy, so he had to go on every night.
Right, exactly. But he got to play it and was fabulous in it.
Yeah.
He played at I think it was the Anta Playhouse on 52nd Street.
I think you're right. and he died a few months after that.
Right, and I was working in Sandy's professional class with the girl Iris.
Oh, the woman he was with that night?
Yes, exactly.
Iris Whitney, I think was.
Correct.
Yeah.
I was working with her in Sandy's professional class. I was assisting Sandy, and I was working on a scene with her. She lived down in around 30-something street. There's a park on the east side that she had a lovely apartment there, and she told me about his death. That they had made love, and then she went into the kitchen to get some orange juice for him, and came back, and he was dead. Which was talk about a horrendous shock.
Oh
my God! They were just in an intimate situation. She went to get literally some orange juice, came back, and he was dead.
Wow.
Yeah, it was horrible. But she loved him, and he loved her. Even though I think he was married at the time, and
he was estranged from his wife, though.
Yes, I think so. That's correct. But he was a kind of hero of my period. He was the guy to look up to. John Garfield, the tough but sensitive guy who played all those wonderful parts. Finally.
Yeah. No, he kept going back to the stage. He did. The Big Knife, he did Skipper Next to God, Peer Gynt. He put that in his contract.
I saw all those plays.
Oh, I'm so jealous of you.
Well, you got to be old like me. If you were my age, you would have seen them too.
It's true. Listen, I saw there. I got to see a lot of people now that people go, "Wow, you saw him." I said, "Yeah." Yes,
it's a little embarrassing to admit how old you are. No, I saw him. I saw quite a bit of him. Actually, Iris Whitney introduced me to him. He used to spend time with her, and then I would come down and work with her on scenes for Sandy Meisner's class.
But you were a baby. I mean, you were only like 21 or 2 when he died, I think.
Yes, about there, somewhere in my early 20s.
Yeah. But prior to this, you had a whole other career as a musician.
Yes, that's what I thought my life was going to be. I started to study piano when I was about 12. Someone in the building, I had a teacher named Mr. Herman, and I heard him play up. This boy named Arthur Gallant lived up on the 4th floor. I was on the 1st floor of this building in which I lived, and I begged my parents to allow me to take lessons from Mr. Herman, lessons which, by the way, cost $15. And he would come for an hour, and it was I was so desperate for a channel for my creativity as a young man that within 2 years I was playing professionally and playing weddings and bar mitzvahs
and at the Irvington Hotel.
Exactly. How'd you know that?
Oh, I did my work.
Oh my God!
You were 15 and didn't you? Playing piano, but you lied about your age, right?
I lied about my age, but it finally didn't work. I wasn't a good sight reader. So I would read, but, shows would come in on the weekends to these hotels like the Irvington where I worked. And there would be shows that would travel from one hotel to the other up in the mountains, like Sheldrake, all those places in New York. And a singer would come in and say, "Can you do T for 2 in B flat?" And I'd say, "Okay," and I would be able to do it. But then the Spanish dancers came, and they opened their music, which was like, it was hung off the piano when I opened it, and it was full of syncopated things that had to be done in terms of their dance routine. And of course, I fucked it up, and I was fired. And I got on the bus. I remember driving back to New York, and in humiliation. My parents, I was 15, and that was quite a place there. During the week, the wives would have affairs with the waiters and the busboys and the musicians in the band, and on the weekend, the husbands would come up. So it was a great treat for the wives. Not all of them, but some of them. They were playing around during the week. It was quite a remarkable thing. And then, of course, when I was fired, I remember getting on the bus. I remember as if it was yesterday, driving back, to New York, having to admit to my parents that I was fired because I couldn't read as rapidly as was necessary for the Spanish dancers. I fucked up their act.
And when did you study with Teddy Wilson?
When I got out of the Bronx High School of Science, that summer, I saw that Teddy Wilson was going to teach a 6-week summer class, and I begged my parents to allow me to go to take his class. My father was a Wall Street stockbroker, and he felt that my musicianship was suspicious to him. He felt that it was too feminine, and so I had to fight for permission to study at Juilliard, which is where Teddy Wilson taught, for that summer session. And he was the one who encouraged me and said that you're going to have a career as a musician.
Do you know that Teddy Wilson was known as the Marxist Mozart?
No, I didn't know
Stretch
that.
Johnson dubbed him that because apparently he was very, very big with left-wing causes. I mean, it wasn't just the actors.
That's my sympathies are still in that.
Of course.
Area.
All of us.
He was sweet. There was about 6 or 8 people in the class, and he's the one who encouraged me. He said, "You should be a musician. You should have a profession as a musician." Because I was pretty good, I was. After a couple of years, I was playing jobs. I just took to it immediately. It was a road out of mediocrity.
And did you ever run into him in later life?
No, I didn't. I didn't, unfortunately, no. But I did go on to go to Juilliard and went to Chicago Musical College when I got out of the service and started my career as a musician.
But didn't you have a band when you were didn't you have a band in Japan?
I did. All the time I was in the service. That's how I saved my life. I remember being sent to Japan and being assigned to an ordnance outfit, and sent my shift was from midnight to 8, and they took me in a boat out to a ship which was a tire repair barge, and if you can imagine the smell of vulcanizing rubber, which was this was a barge that took care of all of the Far East vehicles and tires. And I was there for about 2 hours, and I said, if I stay here 10 more minutes, I'm going to go nuts. I slipped. To this day, I'm amazed at what I did. I slipped overboard. I swam to shore. 100 yards, that was the tire repair barge, was in Yokohama Harbor. I climbed out of the water, and it was 2 in.m, and I made my way to a train station, trying to avoid the MPs. I was soaking wet, my clothes on. I got on the subway and went to Tokyo, and I'd heard that the Special Services Unit was at what they called the Ernie Pyle Theater, which was a big theater like the Roxy or the Paramount or the Capitol in New York. It was a very big theater, and Special Services were associated with that theater. So I sat there in the alley of that theater until they arrived in the morning, wondering what this wet rat was doing there. After all, I was AWOL, and I begged them for permission to play the piano for them. And I went upstairs. The USO girls and the Special Services people were all there, and they took me into a big dance studio where there was a piano. And they said, play. And I played for my life,
Wow.
For 5-10 minutes I played. And the minute I finished playing, I looked at them, and they were all smiling. And and they requisitioned me, and before you knew it, I spent the rest of my 18 months in the Army playing USO shows and trying desperately to become intimate with USO girls. Often failed. Often failed.
And how did you get into the neighborhood? How did you make the transition from music? I mean, to me, the logical progression in a way is music to acting to directing, because you can see it's all that kind of mind, etc. But how did you?
Well,
switch?
I was in, and I came back to New York, of course, after I was discharged, and went to NYU, and I was taking a class called Latin and Greek in Current Usage, which was an etymological class where you saw the derivation of words coming from the French or the Latin and so on and so forth. And the teacher asked us to etymologize the word ornithology. Ornithology, by the way, was a very famous Charlie Parker tune.
Yes.
And I began to hum that tune, hum the Charlie Parker solo. And behind me, a girl was singing with me, a very complicated Charlie Parker solo. And we became fast friends. Her name was Marilyn Bergman. She became
yes, Alan and Marilyn Bergman.
Alan and Marilyn Bergman. She's the one who I spent some time with at NYU, and she's the one who said, you should be an actor. And I said to her, well, I've always kind of harbored that fantasy. And so she knew somebody and called the Neighborhood Playhouse and got me an interview, and soon I got an interview with Sandy Meisner, who took to me, I guess. And before you knew it, I was a student at the Neighborhood Playhouse for the following 2 years, where the Neighborhood Playhouse was a kind of a conservatory of acting. You took acting classes. My dance teacher was Martha Graham. I was exposed to art in its highest realization because Meisner was a genius, and the conservatory atmosphere of the Neighborhood Playhouse was just what I needed. We would work from 9 till 7 o'clock at night. Then everybody would go over to somebody's house, and we'd improvise and practice. And the next day we'd take, ballet. You took ballet, you took speech, you took acting classes. It was just fabulous. And so for 2 years I was in a conservatory of acting, and I was adjusted to the conservatory kind of concept because I'd been at Juilliard and Chicago Musical College, so I knew the passion and the involvement of a student in a conservatory, and I learned everything I knew about acting from Sandy.
A question ran through my mind last week, while I was boning up on this, and I thought, what if the group theater hadn't existed? Nobody would be working today.
That's an interesting observation. Well, it was a very important...
no Clerman, no Odettes, no Gadge, no Sandy, Bobby Lewis.
Right, all of whom I studied with, by the way.
Exactly. And everyone would still be doing old-fashioned acting. I mean, it just would, it's just...
Demonstrative acting, yes. Yes, I studied with Harold. I met my first wife in Harold's class, Joanne Linville.
Really?
He had a class that went on from midnight till 3 in the morning because it was mainly comprised of people who were on Broadway. So they would finish their show, like I was on Broadway a lot, and you'd go to class at midnight. You'd have a class from midnight till 3 or 4, and then in those days, I'm talking about the early 50s. I remember walking Joanne Linville. She asked me to walk her home. This was at the beginning of what turned out to be a marriage, and we walked through Central Park at 3 in the morning safely. Nowadays, you walk through Central Park at 3 o'clock in the morning, you better have a gun.
You can't get in there anymore. Anyhow, it's closed.
Is it really?
I think so, yeah. We, Kim, my wife and I were there with our daughter about 3 years ago. We got a friend who's in security, and he has a special permit, so he was able to actually drive his car through Central Park. But there's nobody in there.
Well, I'm telling you, in those days...
Well, those days, remember, in the summertime, it was so hot, people would take their mattresses and sleep.
They slept in the park.
I mean, hundreds, thousands of people sleeping in Central Park.
It was a more innocent time, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Nowadays, if you walk in Central Park after dark, you're most likely going to be robbed.
depends what your sexual inclination is, too. I mean, you might get lucky. Who knows? Your first Broadway show was Seagulls Over Sorrento.
Yes.
With Leslie Nielsen.
Correct.
John Randolph.
Correct.
And the wireless operator was Rod Steiger. I guess he had...
Steiger. Well, all of them, except John Randolph, doing their first play.
Really?
Yes, that's right. A play that, by the way, ran some 3,000 performances in London and
12.
nine performances here.
Oh, they must have counted the previews then. I know, and then I noticed your subsequent appearances went down in the number of performances.
Well, you know, Broadway is a tough racket.
Oh, I know. What was it? Heart of Fire, which Bobby Lewis directed.
And Full of Fire.
And Full of Fire. Sorry, yes. I can't read my own
Richard Nash
words.
wrote it. And Richard Nash.
Before he hit it with the Rainmaker.
Yes, that's correct.
And Roddy McDowell was in that, and
Right.
James Daly.
Correct. Well, you've done your research.
I find these things are fascinating to me because I was talking to Ed Asner the other week.
With whom I just did something, by the way. I'm sorry for interrupting, but he and I did something written by Brian Connors, who's a member of the Playwrights Unit, called Good Men. And it's about the relationship of two older guys who used to be in show business. Are you still there, by the way?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay. And I'll give you a copy of it. It's only
Where did you do it?
We did it at somebody's house.
Oh, how wonderful.
It's terrific, and I'm telling you, it's really good.
Oh, I'd love to read it.
I'll bring you a copy for when...
Bring it on Monday. Put it in your...
I will indeed.
But it was the thing I was saying to Ed, because he was in this play called Face of a Hero with Jack Lemmon back in the late 50s. And whether the play is a hit or a flop, the rehearsal is still the same amount of time.
Correct.
And that's the thing that stays, certainly for me, that's what stays with me is rehearsal.
Yeah,
because that's where the work is. Because once it opens, whether you're a hit or a flop, there's a certain mechanical aspect that enters into it. Unless you're Alfred Lunt and you've got to do something different every night. And so I was just wondering about, all these years later, these plays, even though they failed, is there something that you remember about the work?
Listen, I loved being on Broadway. I was really lucky because I auditioned for a soap opera called As the World Turns, which was just beginning. And I got the job. And for 6.5 years, I played a lead on a soap opera at least 3 times a week. And we used to go to rehearsal at we go to rehearsal in the afternoon from 2:30 to 5. Then I would get out of rehearsal and I would grab a bite to eat and go to the theater where I was playing on Broadway in one or another plays or off Broadway. I was in Claremont for something like 8 months with Claude Dauphin, all that. So I had a really terrific theater education and acting education. I was fortunately taught by the best acting teachers, Meisner, all the ones you mentioned, Bobby Lewis, any number of people were my teachers, including Kazan and Strasberg. So I really learned, and I had a very, very busy life, I have to get up 8 in the morning and go and rehearse the television show, do it live from 1:30 to 2. Then 2:30 we'd start rehearsing the next day's show till 5:30, and then I'd grab a bite to eat and then go to the theater where I was playing in some flop.
Well, and the last one, which I find such fascinating, Moonbirds, because you were with two of the great wackos of our time, Wally Cox and Bill Hickey.
Right, exactly. Both terrific, by the way. Both talented.
Oh, so talented. But
Bill Hickey was a sensational actor, and Wally became a very close friend of mine. I mean, really intimate friends. We spent the next, years together. He had a house up in Connecticut, and he was a jeweler. He used to make jewelry, make rings and bracelets, and have that television show, Mr. Peepers.
Mr. Peepers, oh yeah.
And where he played this meek, mild-mannered guy who, by the way, if he took off his shirt, looked like Charles Atlas.
Really?
Absolutely. He was all muscles.
How amazing.
Fact, once I was visiting him, and he got it on his tractor at his farm up in Newtown, Connecticut, and there was a shovel that was under the tractor that was half caught under a tire, and he said to me, "Take out the shovel." So I went and tried. I couldn't pull it out, So he said, "Wait, I'll help you." And he came over to the front of the tractor and lifted the fucking thing up himself. Lifted, so I pulled the shovel out. I was so stunned.
Wow.
He lifted a tractor. And I was just shocked. He was an incredibly wonderful and brilliant fellow.
And he was one of Brando's closest friends because they were kids together.
Yes, we used to hang out together. I used to swim in his pool. And what Brando would do, he had a stone about, it must have weighed about 30 pounds, a big kind of small boulder. And he would drop it into his pool. And Wally and Marlon and I would then have to dive into the pool and fight each other underwater. And the guy who managed to take the stone, which was heavy, and lift it and swim to the surface and put it on the deck would win that contest. And I remember doing it one day with Wally and Marlon, and finally coming home to my wife and taking off my shirt. She said, "What the fuck happened to you?" Because my back was scratched. Marlon would, he would kill to prevent anybody from winning if it wasn't him. So his nails were in my back. My God.
Amazing.
They were making me remember things that I'm shocked about.
And Michael Horner was in it as well. In that.
God, yes, my God.
How did he? Because who was he to New York? Because he wasn't, the Sir Michael Horner he eventually became.
Yes, well, but he was. I think he was. The play was written by Hugh Hastings.
Had it been done in England first?
Yes, and was.
Oh, so he probably did it there.
Enormous success in England. He was from the English company, I believe.
Got it. Probably, yeah. And then Dran Zeitz, who was one of those twin sisters.
Beautiful twin sisters.
Dran and Tanny Zeitz.
Everybody wanted them.
Yeah, they were in Ondine. They were those little...
Whatever happened to them?
I met her in I guess, the mid-'60s. She came to Toronto. They were doing... it was when Lincoln Center was doing revivals of all those old musicals, and they would then go on tour, and she was doing Carousel, I think, and that's why I spent a lot of time with her. And then she said, you must call...
talented.
Yeah. She changed her name after years on stage to Dran Hamilton. And she was in some West... And I don't know what happened to them. I don't know if they were alive or not. But they were gorgeous.
They were beautiful twins. It was shocking to see them together.
Oh, and she also, remember, she was the one, she had known Garfield. That's why I thought maybe...
No, I didn't
I have no idea. We'll have to track them down. So, but then you got the opportunity to direct Ben Casey, and they bumped you off. They had you run over by a truck on As the World Turns.
Well, they were so mad at me quitting, I was on the show for 6.5 years, and I told them I was going to California. I was going to become a director, and they were furious, and that's how they got rid of me. They didn't want to. They just were furious. I mean, in those days you had no contract. You did 3 shows a week, maybe, if you were lucky, and it was.
We were talking, but they were pissed off that you were leaving.
Oh yes,
the show.
Yeah, really, and that's why they had me run over with a truck so that I could never reappear. That's right.
In recent years, they've killed people off, and now they come back in dream sequences because they don't know what to do because suddenly the actor changed his mind.
I wish they would offer me the job. I'd be glad to come back in a dream.
Is it still on? I think it finally went off the air, didn't it?
I think it finally did, actually, yes. But it ran for 20 years or more.
Amazing. Oh, more. It was on forever.
Yes.
And you did your apprenticeship with Ben Casey, and then they said, "Okay, kid, here you go.
Exactly.
Now you can direct it."
And I Sidney Pollack really was responsible for getting me the job at Ben Casey. I had to be a schlepper for about a month or two, queuing actors and being a general assistant, and then they saw that I knew what I was doing. And in the meantime, I was learning like a madman. I was studying what they were doing in camera and all that. I learned what that was about, and then they handed me a script and said, "Who do you want for it?" And I read the script, and I said, "I want Richard Basehart and Piper Laurie," and they went and got them for me.
Oh wow!
And so that was my first show, and
you were able to choose.
Oh yeah, and I had the arrogance to feel that was the way it was going to be throughout my life. And I must tell you, I fought for that position continually throughout my life. I made the choices myself.
And then after Ben Casey, you did I Spy.
Yes, I Spy. All those, the Gunsmoke, all those. I did about 50 hours of television shows. It was terrific. You know, I Spy. I did the originals. You know, the first. Leo Penn, who was a wonderful actor and became a director. He was an actor in New York and became a director. He and I alternated on I Spy for the first 10 shows.
And you directed Marty Landau in one of those.
Yes, that's right.
Danny was a million laughs.
How do you know all this? My God, Danny was a million laughs.
But you knew Marty from way back, right?
Yes, of course I knew him in New York as an actor. And now we share the actor studio.
Right.
Running the actor studio. Yeah.
And part of this incredible thread, Marty Landau in the James Dean movie, which you directed, was played by Sam Gould, who starred in my movie. And
Sam was yes, Elliot's son.
Yeah, he was
That's
wonderful.
right. He starred in your movie. That's right.
Yeah,
he was
wonderful,
lovely, wasn't he? A sweet boy.
Yeah, just great. And then Raymond Strauss came into your life.
Oh God!
I know he.
What a nightmare! But he gave me. After all, I made the Fox for him. I was the hot television director you could get you could hire for very little money to make a movie. And I really worked. I worked with Lou Carlino, and we rewrote all the script, which was suggested by a short story by D.H. Lawrence, of a 35-page short story. We wrote the screenplay, and the picture was a remarkable hit. Because
it got the Golden Globe for Best English Language Foreign Film. Although
exactly.
a movie made in Canada is a foreign film. It's very strange.
Exactly. But it really started my career. My God, I couldn't field the offers after that. It was I leaped many stages of a normal director's career because right after that picture, which was such a hit. Everything happened. I had the Reivers with Steve McQueen, and everything happened.
You had done Wanted Dead or Alive with Steve McQueen.
Exactly, that's correct. Well, Steve and I used to. Maybe this is not the appropriate.
He's gone. It's all right.
Okay. Well, we used to smoke grass and ride horses together on Wanted Dead or Alive. And he was a good friend for many years.
Wasn't he at the Playhouse as well?
Yes, he was. He was in Ron's class.
Wow.
Yeah, how do you like that?
And he was also in Time Out for Ginger. I think was his only Broadway credit with Melvin Douglas. He played in a he replaced Ben Gazzara in a Mike Gazzo play. Mm-hmm.
What the heck?
Oh, Hatful of Rain?
Exactly.
I didn't know that.
Yes, he replaced Ben.
So he had a couple of Broadway credits. I didn't realize it. Wow. And then the Cowboys.
Well, let me just tell you a funny story about Steve McQueen. I came to California with my wife, who was doing a Playhouse 90 or something like that, and I was walking the street, and there's Steve McQueen, and he says, "Mark, oh boy, I've got a great part for you." He was doing Wanted Dead or Alive at the time.
Right.
I said, "You're kidding." He said, "Can you ride?" I said, "The closest I'd ever been to a horse was to a theater cop in New York, And he said, "Well, all right, I'll teach you over the weekend, but let's go." He took me over to 4-Star, and they asked me if I could ride, and he told me to say I could. So I said, "Like the wind." I answered, I could ride brilliantly, and then I went out and so I got this job, which. I went home and read the script, and it was a chase.
Okay.
A chase, and I'd never been on a horse. So Steve took me out for the weekend, and he taught me how to ride. And the first day, the first shot, literally, was Steve and I had to walk up a giant kind of a mountain with no trail, just bushes and all that. A serious hill. And on action, we were supposed to be racing down this hill, chasing somebody. Right? The two of us were chasing somebody, and at a certain place we had to arrive where the camera was, which was coming down toward the camera, and we had a dialogue which was, Steve was supposed to say to me, don't go slower. We can't. The horses, so the horses are going to be too exhausted. And I said, no, we got to catch him. And we rode off. Right. That was the scene. And I'm walking up the hill on the horse with Steve. I said, Steve, there's no way that I know how to do this. There's no way. He said, don't worry about it. He says, get up to the top with me. It's far enough away. When it starts, they'll call action. They'll probably fire a gun because they're far away from us. And I'll take off, and your horse will automatically follow. And when the time comes, just squeeze your horse with your knees. Don't kick him. Just squeeze your horse with your knees, and I'll let you go past me. And then when we get to the marks where the camera is, I'll yell, stop, and you remember just put your heels down and grab those reins and pull them high, very tight, and I'll arrange for you to stop at the right place. So I'm walking up the hill, and I'm saying, this is suicide. I have no idea how to do this, And all of a sudden, they fire a gun, telling us that this is action. And Steve, who was, by the way, a brilliant athlete and a great rider, takes off down the hill, and my horse immediately follows, right? And I'm plunging down this hill with Steve in the lead. I'm supposed to be in the lead, right? So he yells back at me, squeeze your horse. I forget squeezing. I start kicking the horse, right? And the horse took off like a thunderbolt. And I'm racing down the hill. And, by the way, when you're going fast, it's easier. You don't bounce nearly as much.
Right.
And we got down to the place for the marks, and he yells at me, pull, keep your heels down and stop. And I pulled the reins and put my heels down. And the dialogue is supposed to begin. He comes up to me and he says, we can't go this fast. And I said, I remember we had to do it 2 or 3 times before I could say the dialogue. Oh, that was a great experience for me.
Well, it prepared you for directing the Cowboys. You'd had some experience then.
I did. All of a sudden, this Jewish boy from the Grand Concourse was directing the great Duke Wayne.
Now, is that story true about having that drink with him and he'd gone to the men's room? Is this true, or is this apocryphal?
No, it's true.
Tell us. I'd love that story.
Remind me of the details of it, because I don't.
That you were supposed to, you were nervous because, as you say, the Jewish boy from the Bronx, and he was this Mr. Right-wing Republican, and
correct.
So they said, go and have a drink with him, break the ice.
Yes,
and you were sitting there waiting, and he came back, and as he got closer, you noticed that there were stains on his trousers.
Right. Go ahead.
I don't want to kill your story.
No, go ahead, tell it. I want to hear it again.
And then he said, and you thought to yourself, oh, God, he's incontinent. It's worse than I thought. And then he sat down and he said, it happens every time. And it turns out he was in the men's room standing at a urinal.
Somebody stared in his face and turned toward him and said, you're John Wayne, and kissed on him.
Because he was so starstruck.
Exactly what happened.
And it happened to him many times in the men's room.
Many times I go to the men's room, I start to pee, somebody's peeing next to me, and they look at me and they say, and they turn unconsciously and say, my God, you're John Wayne, and they pee on me. He says it happens regularly.
Well, that had to be the ultimate icebreaker.
Well, it was. We he shocked me. We certainly were political opposites. And when I didn't want him for the picture, I wanted George Scott, but John Calley said to me, please come, we'll fly down to, he's shooting in Santa Fe. I'd like to let you guys meet and see what the story is, because he's read the book and he really likes it. I said, oh shit, and I got on the plane, this Warner Brothers jet, and we went down to see him, and of course I was stunned, he's 6'5", and his hand was like it was my whole arm could have been buried in his hand. That's how big he was and strong. And he said to me, I hope you give me this part, sir, because I really will do a good job for you. And I was so shocked, so stunned by his grace, something I never expected. He was the opposite of me. And I said to him afterwards, I said, look, we're going to do this picture together, but let's not talk politics or because you and I are on opposite ends of the spectrum. He said, let's talk acting. And I said, okay. And we had a great time, and I was stunned by his generosity. He was the first guy on the set, the last guy to leave. You know, he was completely committed. You couldn't have had a nicer guy.
And the most underrated actor of the Golden Age. You know, people think because of the politics or whatever else, but I mean, he was a brilliant film actor.
He certainly was.
And I take that word film out because I hate that. He was a brilliant actor.
He was indeed, and he was a serious actor. And, you know, I surrounded him with, you know, Bruce Dern and Roscoe Lee Brown. I didn't let him hire any of his cronies, because that's
Right.
what he wanted to do. He wanted to put all his cronies in the picture. I said, absolutely not. We're going to have just actors from the actor studio. And so he was very challenged, and he gave a great performance. I was very impressed with him. He was a terrific guy, by the way.
I met him briefly. He was doing a film in London when I was living there, and he was just
How
a
long
gent.
did you live there, by the way?
I lived there for 6 years.
How come?
I couldn't. I was supposed to do a play on Broadway. Remember Charles Aidman?
Sure, Charlie was in my class.
Yeah,
Yeah, with Playhouse.
He cast me in a play in 1968. There was a boy that they had cast before who was no longer available. He met me one night at dinner and basically offered me the part. He didn't even want to read me. He said, I don't need to read you. And then the play kept getting postponed, and
Right.
then I got it was ready to go in January of '69. I got a call from the producers saying the boy that they wanted was now available.
Right.
But would I be the understudy for the same money? And I thought, why not?
Absolutely.
And then a week later, the guy called back in and said, I can't afford for you just to be the understudy. You have to be an assistant stage manager. And I'd done all that, and I said, no, I don't want to do it. And the play flopped after 10 performances. The boy was Richard Dreyfuss, by the way.
Oh, my God.
And the play flopped after 10 performances. And I thought, what am I going to do now?
What was the name of the play? Do you remember?
Yes, it was by Julius Epstein. It was called But Seriously, and it starred Tom Poston, which I knew going in because he always made every play he ever did flopped. He never had a hit on Broadway. And the irony is, years later, Julius Epstein, like all of us, never threw anything out. And so he used a lot of the stuff in, the hospital picture with Walter Matthau and Glenda Jackson, that comedy.
Oh, yes, I remember it, yes.
There was a whole chunk that I remembered vividly from the play. He put it in there. And I had dinner with Epstein years later, and I told him, he said, oh, God, you recognize. I said, yeah. He said, shit, I thought nobody would know that. But, I mean, no one would have known it because nobody saw the damn play. But, yeah, that was amazing. So I didn't know what I was going to do because, I couldn't work in the States. I was a Canadian. I had no work permit. They were going to get me one, for the show. So England was obvious because I could work in England. And I had friends over there at the time.
How come? I thought you had a lot of work in England.
Back then, being Canadian, I guess it was still a Commonwealth thing.
That's right.
And so I went. I had no idea how long I'd be there, and I ended up being there 6 years.
God.
Yeah.
That's terrific.
Yeah, that was my finishing school, as I call it.
That's not a bad finishing school. That's really terrific.
But let's get back to you, unless you're tired.
Oh, no, I can do a little more.
Cinderella Liberty. Favorite memory.
Favorite picture.
Really?
Oh, man, I love that picture. Fox sent me the book, which was a monumental book about naval bureaucracy. And I read this book. They would ask me to make a picture of it. I said, no, I don't really like this book. There's one chapter I like, where he meets the girl. I said, if you let me make the picture about that chapter, I'll make the picture. Those were the days when I was really in demand.
Mm-hmm.
And they said, okay. So I went to work with Darrell Ponison, who wrote the book, and we wrote this terrific, rather good love story. And I found Marsha Mason, which, I saw her I was looking for naval bases, and I went to the Geary Street Theater in San Francisco because I was, I just kind of went to San Francisco to see a naval base, and I saw her playing Nora in A Doll's House, and she was spectacular. And I went backstage, I introduced myself and said that I wanted her for a picture opposite Jimmy Kahn. She looked at me like I was a masher,
And you got her. So Marsha Mason thought you were a masher.
Yeah, she didn't believe me, you know. So the next day, I had her meet me at the hotel, and I said, I'm going to call the studio in front of you. And I called them and said that I found the girl, you know, and they were the studio was furious with me. They wanted Jane Fonda, they wanted, you know, stars. And I said, no, I insist this girl will be a big discovery. So they cut my budget in half and let me do it. Are you there?
Yeah, I had no idea.
Yeah, they literally cut my budget. I had a $10 million budget. They said, you can make it if you make it for $5.
They didn't trust Jimmy Caan enough?
I beg your pardon?
They didn't trust Jimmy Caan enough to pull people in?
They wanted big stars in both roles.
Wow.
You know, it's not an unconventional desire from the studio's point of view, but you know, she you know, won the award.
Yeah.
She was fabulous. She was slender. She was thin. I saw her recently. Now she's a dumpy, kind of nice-looking woman in her 60s, I guess.
Yeah, yeah. I think it was around that time I saw her as well as ACT. She was in Cyrano de Bergerac with.
Right. I'm telling you, that's where I.
Yeah, she was their star. She was the resident star at ACT.
That's right. That's where I found her.
Wow, amazing.
Yeah, my God.
So that was the beginning of 3 pictures with Jimmy Caan.
Exactly, my God. Well, I love him. You know,
Did you know him before that?
Yes, I knew him, and I always found him very entertaining, full of life and vivacity. You know, he was and a very good actor and a very determined actor. You know, and he'd been trained by Meisner and we shared all the training experience together, and you know, and I've had a wonderful time. I was out with dinner with him just the other night.
His son is wonderful too.
Yeah, he's had a success.
Yeah, it's great. It's great.
Big fucking success.
And then straight into Harry and Walter with Jimmy after that.
Right, exactly. Harry and Walter and Jimmy and Elliot.
Right.
And Michael Caine.
Michael Caine.
Yes, Michael Caine, who thought of Jimmy and Elliot as lunatics.
Well, they are.
Yes, and they fed each other. And, it was a great experience. I gotta tell you, I loved it. I loved working with them.
And then the Rose with.
Yeah, that was a big, major experience. That's.
I'm very curious about your choice of Alan Bates. I'd worked with Alan at Stratford, Ontario, years before that. I was very surprised to see Alan Bates in the Rose.
Well, you know, I liked him as an actor, and I thought that there was in that period there were a lot of managers who were English.
Right.
They managed big rock stars, and they were English, and I thought there was a kind of authenticity to using him. He was a more superficial actor, but very skilled, extremely skilled, and I liked the combination of Bette and he. You know, they were from two different worlds. After all, Bette had never acted before. She had only done, you know, I'd seen her. When I told Fox that I wanted to use Bette Midler, they said, forget it. Who is she? They said. I said, go to New York, go to the Baz, and see her. And they didn't want to do that, so they, you know, I had another director, and then a third director, and then finally she had emerged, and they came to me and said, you were right, you can use her if you want. And I said, okay, because I thought that she was the only person that I knew in the world to play that part. I could not think of a better casting opportunity than to deliver Bette Midler in that part. You know, and she turned herself inside out for me.
Yeah,
it was an extraordinary performance.
And then one of my favorites on Golden Pond. I mean, there you were with these 2 starkers of the theater, let alone film.
3, including Jane.
Jane, yeah. But I'm just thinking about, you know, Fonda and Dabney. And Dabney, who I always think of as your discovery, you know, from the Playhouse party. It was a very, very intimate dinner, and Tony Perkins, who was one of my best friends at that time. They were there. They were the same. They were the same age. And Dabney told us the story at dinner about being. I'm trying to think. He was, I guess, 25 years old. He had dropped out of the Virginia Military Institute, was studying law, but he wanted to be an actor, and this was, you know, coming from that kind of macho Texas thing. It was,
right.
You know, not anything that he didn't know what to do, and he went to New York, and he went to see a play, and it was Look Homeward Angel, and on that stage was another 25-year-old boy.
Yeah, Tony Perkins.
And it was Tony, and he said that is what made him decide to go for it.
Isn't that fabulous? What a great story.
And Tony was, it just blew him away.
Yeah, he must have been very touched.
And what was the thing I also remember about that dinner was, and Dabney, that acid tongue of his.
Right.
Tony took this long meat knife and started paring an apple, taking the skin off the apple.
Right.
And Dabney was staring at him, and finally goes, "Did you bring that from home?"
Dabney was very funny.
Oh, funny.
I don't want to say was. He is very funny.
Yeah.
Never speak again.
But you had been his teacher at the Playhouse.
Right, exactly.
Wow. Well, we wish him well. We wish him well.
Yeah, I'm going to call him as soon as we finish our conversation.
Yeah.
So I don't know whether we'll be able to talk, but there'll be somebody there.
Yeah, absolutely. And favorite memory from On Golden Pond?
Favorite memory from On Golden Pond.
So is it true he wouldn't do the off-camera lines for her close-ups? He'd go home?
No. Whoever said that?
I don't know. That's why I'd like to get it straight.
Talking about Henry?
Yeah.
No, he would do. He was just terrific. No, I never had any problem with anybody on that picture. As a matter of fact, it was a thrill. I mean, Jesus Christ! I mean, working with Katharine Hepburn and Henry Fonda and Jane, it was like you couldn't have a better situation. And Dabney.
Yeah.
It was perfect experience. It was one of the great experiences of my life. And we found a house on a lake that had absolutely no. The whole lake had provisions where you couldn't commercialize on the lake. There was nothing commercial, just houses set back with 100 yards from the edge of the lake. There was big rules. It was fabulous. And I picked that lake, and then the town refused to let us shoot there. They didn't want to commercialize the environment. So I didn't know what to do, and I told Catherine. She says, let me talk to them, So I called a town meeting, and I talked to them and said how important it was for us to have the lake, and I brought out Catherine, and that did it. They fucking went nuts when Catherine talked to them and said, please let us use this lake. It's so beautiful. We promise to respect it. And, of course, the next day we had the lake.
Where was that?
In New Hampshire. Near Concord, New Hampshire. Lake, what the hell was the name of the lake? I forgot already.
And Ernest Thompson owes you a lot because that play had not been a success.
No, but I knew I could make it a success.
But ever since your movie, I'm saying that now it's done all the time.
Yeah, well, it's a wonderful play. It's a very good play. It was. Now you see the play was a kind of a farce. It was comedic, and the performances were comedic. And when Ernest Thompson came to my office when they wanted me to do it, and I had agreed to do it, and I said I want to meet with Ernest Thompson. I expected an elderly person to come in, and here's this handsome young guy who wrote this play. And we worked on the screenplay, and I said, look, this, we don't have to make a farce of this. We can make it serious. After all, it's about confronting the end of your life. We won't lose any of the humor, but let's really do the substantial stuff about what it really feels like to be at the end of your life. And he rewrote the play into the screenplay, which really worked like a charm. And I had one of the most fabulous experiences of my life with those incredible people who were as professional as you could be. They were there the first thing in the morning, boy. They were working like a dog. They worked all day. You couldn't stop them. That's how much they loved it.
Did you rehearse it as a play before you shot it?
Absolutely.
How many weeks?
2
Wow.
weeks in the basement of 20th Century Fox, rehearsing. And it was a great experience. Actually, we started to rehearse there, and then Catherine said, when we went to New Hampshire, she said, we're going to rehearse in a firehouse, for a few days before we started. And she said, come to my house, And I thought, what the fuck is this? Should I give in and go to her house for rehearsal? So I said, okay. I figured, what the hell? There's no time to have a battle.
Right.
So, and sure enough, she turned out to be a pipe and slippers kind of woman. She had cookies and had milk for everybody. It was amazing. And we sat down. We had the first day of rehearsal was at her house, which was quite a lovely house, 100 yards back from the edge of the lake. She said, I said, let's go to rehearse. We had tea and whatever and cookies, and I said, let's go to rehearse. And we went to the table, and there was scripts in front of every chair and pencils, and she sat down at the head of the table. And I thought, oh God, here it is, man. Here's the challenge. So I said to her, trembling, I said, Kate, I think you're in my chair. She looked up at me, and it was a very crucial moment. And she got up and said, you're right. And she moved to the side, and I conducted rehearsal. It was a critical moment in our relationship. Are you there?
I'm blown away. Good for you. The little kid from the Grand Concourse. Points.
Right,
points.
Exactly. I played with those giants.
Yeah.
I tell you, you could not have had a more professional experience ever. They were completely dedicated, completely, they surrendered to me completely. They turned to me. I remember after the first shot when they came into the house and I said, cut, and they looked at me, they turned to me like children, like 19-year-old actors with eagerness in their eyes. Was it good, was what they were saying, because they didn't know. They were lost in it, It was the perfect kind of acting. They were just lost in each other and lost in the house and the environment, and it was an important moment in my directing career because I felt needed. I was very intimidated by them during rehearsal. Not intimidated is the wrong word. I was just very respectful and courteous, and which I always am, but somehow I hadn't yet really taken over because I was afraid that they would rebel if I corrected them. If I said, listen, I think this moment is not right, maybe do it this way, maybe there's another way of doing it. But they couldn't have been more cooperative. And the picture was, of course, shocking success. I think it cost $9 million. The whole picture cost. Made something like $260 million. I have no idea, something like that.
I hope you had a piece of it.
A little piece.
That's nice.
I had what nobody wants, which is a piece of the profits.
Right.
But even that was so worthy that I got quite a lot of money out of it.
That's great. And finally, I want to talk about James Dean because I think it's one of the best TV movies ever. I mean, and again, why to take off TV? It's a wonderful movie.
Yeah, I agree with you. I
and
like it very much.
But obviously you knew him.
I did. I acted with him, and you remember the show in New York in the 50s called Omnibus?
Yes.
Alistair Cook was the host.
Yes.
Well, the first teleplay of William Inge was called Glory in the Flower, and it was Hume Cronin and Jessica Tandy and Jimmy Dean and myself. So we had a real relationship, Jimmy and I, and he was quite a remarkable guy, really peculiar and strange and daring. I remember walking down Madison Avenue with him one day after rehearsal. We rehearsed at 65th Street somewhere. We were walking down Madison Avenue, and suddenly, the traffic was racing down Madison Avenue, which was a two-way street at the time. He took off his jacket and jumped in front of a bus and did a pass like a bullfighter.
Mm-hmm.
Bus, and the bus literally just skimmed his trousers. That's how close he was. And I looked at him and I said to myself, he'll never last. That's a really suicidal move. I'm telling you, the bus was going, 30, 40 miles an hour, as they did in those days. And the bus grazed his trousers. That's how close he was. And he was a remarkable young man, but doomed. And it was clear that he was doomed. Or when you knew him, you knew he was not going to live.
Was it strange to direct something that you had actually lived with people that you had, for Sam to be Marty, for Franco to be James Dean?
It was kind of strange, but it was also a thrill, because Franco was so, I told, I think it was Showtime, I don't remember, it was Showtime or HBO, I don't know where I did it, but I said to them, listen, you're going to have to prepare this, spend the money preparing this shoot. But if I don't find Jimmy Dean, I'm going to quit. So, because I'm not going to, have an imitation. And
how many kids did you see?
Oh, maybe 50.
Mm-hmm.
And finally, he walked into the office sullen, hair down to his shoulders. His manager had told him not to go in. His agent told him not to go in. There's no way you can succeed playing Jimmy Dean. It's impossible. And he came in prepared to read. I said, no, let's not read. Let's walk around the block. And we took a walk and talked about, where did you grow up and who was your father. And by the time we walked around the block, I knew I had the perfect Jimmy Dean. And of course, he was wonderful. He was terrific, and it was the thing that made his career. He's now a big star.
Oh, he's huge. He's huge. I mean, and survived even that bizarre Oscar ceremony, whatever that was.
Well, that was so silly for them. I mean, that's the last person who should host anything. It was such a desperately pathetic choice, because he's a wonderful guy, but that's not what he does. I mean, he's not a host or a charmer or someone who can handle being the interlocutor of a Academy Award show. It was a stupid move in casting, but he managed to get through it. But barely. I thought it was awful.
Well, Mr. Rydell,
Yes,
I'm looking back now 40 years ago, and Ron Harding saying to me, "You should meet Mark. You'd like him. You guys would like each other."
Well, it's true. We do like each other.
I know, and it's just,
But it's so amazing to be talking to someone who was close to Ron, who meant everything to me at that time in my life, and whose death was a serious blow to me. I don't think I ever experienced grief as deeply as I did when I heard of her death. I was just stunned. I had seen her maybe a year previously. I came to New York and took her to the theater. We had dinner and went to the theater, and she was living on, off 8th Avenue or something like that in the 40s in some little ground floor apartment. And she was working at ICM, right, working as a secretary.
well, she was still there.
Oh, God.
I mean, I don't know. That's where I knew she was, the early '80s when I last spoke with her.
Oh, my God, yeah. And I met her father, was an architect.
Right.
Palm Springs.
And her aunt was, by marriage...
Palm Beach, rather, not Palm Springs.
Yeah, but her aunt by marriage... Oh, God, I just flashed. I remember now her telling me about being, in Hyannis or something when she was little. And the Kennedy boys,
Exactly.
Oh, God. It's all coming back to me now, too.
I remember having dinner with her and her mother.
Mm-hmm.
And her mother was a kind of a very graceful, really blue blood kind of person. And I felt so Jewish. And it's like, I felt like, oh my God, she actually, the mother really thought, what are you doing with this Jewish guy,
Right.
And I felt that Jewish prejudice as I was having lunch at some East 50s, between Madison and Park, beautiful restaurant, and with Ron and her mother. My God. Well, I think, Chuck, it's really, to me, it's very interesting that we, after all these years, have reconnected and are talking about our lives together. Actually, we're talking about my life. We haven't really talked too much about yours, but I'm still curious about how your life went during that period.
Well, we'll do that, over dinner or lunch, whenever you want. Okay. Do you have a photograph of Ron, by the way?
I do not. Do you?
No, I was thinking when you told me that woman who called you to tell you she was dead, maybe she's got a picture or something. I'd love to have a picture of her.
Yes, and I may have a picture.
You found that pass for the sanitarium. Maybe there's a picture somewhere.
Well, I'm going out to a place called a storage place, and I look. I must have boxes of photographs of my life all together. They're in there. I was going to go out there on Monday.
Well, I want you to know I was coming up on the 40th interview for this show, and I said, it's got to be somebody special, and it's you. And I just treasure you, Mark.
Well, thank you so much. I was delighted to have a chat with you like that.
Thank you, and I will see you on Monday at the Actors Studio.
Very good. Have a great week.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.